McCarthy Insurance Group, serving the community for over 70 years. For home, farm, motor, life, health and business insurance, log on to mig.ie or free phone 1800 50 11 11. Probably your best call in 2024. Charles McCarthy Insurance is trading as McCarthy Insurance Group, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Real people, real opinions, Real Talk Radio. The multi-award-winning Niall Boylan Show.
Do we have any respect for our elderly? John, how are you doing? You're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
Good evening, Niall. How are you keeping?
I'm keeping well, John.
Nursing homes. You're breaking up a little bit, but...
Am I? Well, I'm in the radio station, so it's unlikely I'm breaking up, but it could be your phone or where you are, John.
Yeah, well, whatever, okay. I have a fair bit of... Well, there's just two of us, myself and my brother, and... my dad has passed away now a good 18 years.
Yeah.
But I still remember after my mother died, he was living alone by himself.
Yeah.
And he was on medication and he couldn't function. The medication seemingly, we found out later, was upsetting him. But we tried to mind him as best we could. My brother had him for a few months and he'd be awake at night time and he thought he was in churches and he thought the elephants were coming and the Indians were... he was freaking out.
Yeah, I
so
can imagine.
He went back into hospital and then I minded him, but I was on night shift at the time, so I was working all night, and then during the day, it didn't work out anyway, and I had a breakdown, but Dad was a nursing home and we decided, listen, after the stint at hospital, he went back into hospital and he had heart failure and he was going to die, and they gave him the electric shock treatment 3 times, which was a miracle that he survived. But after got into a nursing home anyways, and it was the greatest fucking time of his life.
Oh, he enjoyed it.
He enjoyed it. I can just tell people, my dad broke every nurse's fucking heart. And he had a ball. And he disgraced a lot of us. He was a character. I was in his room one day and he was sitting up and he had a little room in the nursing home and I was beside the bed, but he couldn't see the telly, so he wanted new glasses. So my brother was a lot older than me, organised an optician to come out. So the optician came out and she did the thing and Dad got new glasses. And one of the nurses, they were beautiful, the nurses in the nursing home. So we had a great time in that. But I can't think of her name. She came in and she was even worse. Now, she was in her 30s and she was plump. I wouldn't call her, she was plump. And she stuck her head in the door and I was sitting beside the bed and she said, "Oh, John, you've got new glasses. You're looking great." And with that, he turned to her and he said, "You look twice as fucking big."
Right, I get you. So, but here's the thing, and I get that, and thanks to him, I'm glad your dad enjoyed his time in the nursing home.
Yeah.
But do you think not in your dad's case, maybe, because obviously he had difficulties. Yeah. Do you think we're very quick, John, to put people into a nursing home?
What?
Do you think we're a bit kind of quick, generally speaking? Not you, but generally, as a society. A lot of people put them in nursing homes and they don't need to be in nursing homes. They'd be quite happy to stay at home with you if you let them.
Yeah. Well, I'd hope that most families would hang on to their parents because they only have one mother and one father. And I'd hope they'd hold on to them for as long as they can. The nursing home would be the last resort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like my grandmother, she had a stroke and everything else. There was no question of her ever going into a nursing home. We did everything for her. And even with my father, I did everything for him. I showered him, washed him, and put him to bed, got up in the morning and the whole lot. But there comes a stage where, a nursing home is required, but it's the very last resort.
Okay. All right. Stay there for a second. Let me go to Oisin. Oisin, you're at Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How you doing, Oisin?
Hey, Noel, how's you?
Well, I get the point John is making. His dad was better off, obviously, in a nursing home because he was being looked after and enjoyed the company more so than he did at home because, obviously, at that stage of his life, he was starting to ramble a little bit. Anyway, and he needed the care. But generally speaking, do you believe that we're kind of quick to put people into nursing homes?
On a side note, Anya sounds quite like Aisling. Anyway.
Anya, who answered the phone.
Yeah.
She sounds like Aisling that used to work here.
Yeah.
She does actually. Yeah, she does a little bit.
I know I've gone off. Yeah, that kind of bubbly whole funny attitude and the voice and everything. So I know I've gone off topic here.
Yeah, and she's loud like Aisling too. She's very loud like Aisling.
Oh, no,
in a nice way. In a nice way.
Nobody could be as loud as Aisling.
This is true. Do you remember one night we did an experiment with Aisling? And you have to remember the studios we're in here are completely soundproof, right? They've thick 1 foot walls with 3 panes of glass. You could, like a bomb could go off outside and I wouldn't hear it in here, right? But with Aisling, we did an experiment on the air one night where Aisling shouted outside the studio into the glass and I could hear her.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I swear I'm not joking. I swear to God. It was like, folks, can you hear that? Can you actually hear that?
You could actually hear her. She was screaming at us. Like, if I got Jane to shout now through the glass, right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll do a little experiment. Let's just see if Jane is as loud as Aisling was, right? Okay, so Jane, right, you can hear me. So Jane, I want you to stand up and shout as loud as you can through the glass, right? Okay? Okay. Go for it, Jane. Mayo for Sam. I heard it because I can hear it through the headphones. But nobody heard you. Nobody heard you.
I think it was a bit of a squeak there now. No disrespect.
Mayo for Sam. Would you stop? Yeah, and pigs will fly. Or, by the way, pigs will fly. Or the world is going to end today. You do know, by the way, that Greta Thunberg predicted 5 years ago that the world would end today. Coincidentally, on the same day she got the freedom of the city of Dublin. What did they give it to her for? Why didn't they give it to me? By the way, all those tweets that she put up 5 years ago about the world ending and the Arctic ice melting and we're all going to die.
All wrong.
They were all incorrect. They were all wrong.
Yep.
And yet the clowns will keep listening to her. Just like every other prediction that I've heard over the last 50 years about the world ending was wrong. She's no different to the clown that stood in the middle of the street 50 years ago with a sandwich board on him saying the world is the end of the world is nigh.
Oh, yeah, the end of the world is nigh. Repent, you sinners.
Yeah, she's no different. She's just younger and doesn't have a placard. She has the internet. But anyway, sorry for all those climate change people. Greta was wrong. We're still here. Mind you, if you believe her, we've only got about an hour left, or an hour and 45 minutes left. Let's make the best of it, folks. We should do a topic at the end of the night. What would you do if you've only got 15 minutes left?
And you know what's going to happen? You get cut off halfway through because they'll all be dead.
Sorry.
You have no listeners.
We're gone completely off on a tangent. Okay, Oisin, back to the topic at hand. Okay, do we owe our parents, with gratitude to look after them in their, in their elder years, rather than, as Malachy said last week, dumping them in a nursing home?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I've gone through watching my grandparents, senile dementia. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to guess her name. They you can see it in their eyes. They're trying to recognise you, and it's not coming through. And they call you. I was talking to Audie, and I said, like, my granny used to call me Stephen. I disagreed because it was easier. And I think every person out there has a duty of care to their parents.
Yeah.
Whether it's a nursing home or whether it's, like I've got 2 sisters and 2 brothers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we would all muck in, do the best we can. I don't think, depending on how advanced they are with dementia or anything else of that nature, I don't think dumping them in a nursing home. I mean, please don't take this the wrong way. They cost a fortune. And that's not to say your parents' lives are worth nothing. That's not what I mean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we all have a duty of care to our parents. I mean, they brought us up. They brought us into the world. They wiped our bottoms. They bought us clothes. They cleaned us. They taught us values.
Yeah.
And I think kind of just to shuffle them off into a nursing home, it's like, you'd be grand. I'll see you every Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll drop in. And by the way, I spoke to somebody in a nursing home, and they said, look, most people do come to visit their elderly, and she said most are very grateful for the work they do, blah, blah, blah. But she said there are some, and she said, I know these people, they're perfectly healthy, they shouldn't be in a nursing home, they're miserably unhappy. And she said, I had one particular woman, and she was so unhappy, and she said her daughter rarely came in to see her. And she said, one Christmas it broke my heart. She said, Christmas Day, the daughter was bringing in a present for her for Christmas. She came up to reception, and this girl I know was at reception. She left the reception and she said, do you want me to go and get her for you? Do you want to come in and see her? And she said, nah, I won't disturb her. Hey, just give her that, will you? And out the door.
That's horrible. I mean, that's your mother who's brought you up, brought you into the world.
But that's what people do. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? I could never see that with my parents. Between the four of us, like, genuinely, I could never see that happening. We'll do whatever we have to do. We'll bend over backwards. We'll do whatever needs to be done. Whatever money has to be provided, it'll be there.
Do we have an obligation? Do we have an obligation to do it?
We do. Yes, we do. We do. Even if they don't remember your name, or you need to, clean your parents, wash your parents, you need to help them up and down the stairs. I mean, that's our job. I mean, like, we're kind of the next generation. So realistically, if you start losing that respect, like, if you've got kids like I have, what's going to happen to you?
Yeah.
If they see you treating your parents like that, they'll be kind of going, look, we'll just, we'll shuffle them off. And he'll be gone. He'll be grand. And then you don't know what's going on.
Stay there just a second. Well, hang on. Let me go to Diarmuid as well. Diarmuid, how you doing?
How's it going?
Diarmuid, do we have an obligation to our mothers and fathers? Oisín absolutely believes we do. I mean, if they're healthy, when I say healthy, they don't need 24-hour care or genuine care. Do we have an obligation to care for them ourselves?
I think so, but it's very hard in this modern world. I will sympathize with some people. The circumstances can change. I mean, to be honest with you, I saw some statistic that most people in an old folks' home are in there because they can't tie their shoelaces, which I well believe, having visited my father regularly in an old folks' home. And in his case, I mean, he had a massive stroke. He couldn't move anything from below the neck. So it was impossible for the family. I mean, half of them were abroad. I had come back from abroad. I stayed a good few months to analyze what alternatives could be done, like build a house on the side of the house or modify the house. And the doctors are saying, look, he could be alive. He could drop dead tomorrow, or he could drop dead in 10 years, but probably within the next 2 years. And so my mother had a heart condition, like it all stacked up. So the only solution was go to a home. But while he was there for a good few months, I visited him. And then I was going to be a burden to my mother because I'd left my job in Europe and I could get my job back in Europe and in Ireland. I was going to be on the scratch. You know what I mean? So
I would hear that term in years, by the way, the scratch. Yeah, but go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, in the early 90s, that era, about 94, it would have been, it was basically not much work. And I was doing okay in France, in the line of work I was doing.
Gardner Street on a Thursday was where you went to get your money. Yeah, of course, yeah.
That kind of thing. Yeah, wherever. I can't remember where it was.
Okay, so realistically, you believe that if you can look after them, you should. But if you can't, well, then the best place for them is in a home. But most people, hang on, with the greatest respect here, most people in old folks' homes, most people in old folks' homes could be looked after at home.
Oh, that's all correct. I mean, yeah. There was one case I remember watching a documentary in England. And they removed 98% of the people because simply they were put on drugs to keep them quiet. And they did a test on this one home, and 98% of them returned home to live by themselves because once they were taken off the drugs, they were able to continue
function in society. Yeah,
that shows that they were being bunged into homes for all sorts of minor reasons.
Well, because the main reason is their family are selfish. In some cases, I'm not saying all, by the way. In some cases.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. I mean, I've heard horror stories of different people being put in for just because it didn't suit them, the old dog, normally you can shoot the old dog when he gets smelly and starts messing up the place, but with humans you can't. So the solution is just stick them into an old folks home. And if you talk to many nurses, they'll tell you, or that are in these old folks homes, this is not appropriate, but they're not allowed to say it. And
No.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Sheen.
Oh, no, I apologise. Sorry. I mean, sorry for cutting in. I do apologise. We're all going to be in that situation at some stage, whether we know it or not. You know, that kind of way. And whether you've dementia, whether you've got whatever, God forgive me, cancer, you've got whatever it is, we're all going to reach that age whereby we're going to need a bit of extra help. And I think compassion goes a long way. If that makes sense. Maybe I'm not coming through kind of correctly, but we're all going to need that extra bit of help as we get older.
Stay there, both of you, for a second. Let me just go to, if I can, Fiona. You can take 3 there, Jane, if you want. Let me go to Fiona. Fiona, how you doing?
Hello, Niall. Sorry, I can barely hear you.
Oh, sorry about that, Fiona. I do apologise. I'll speak a little bit louder. So, Fiona, you believe it depends on the circumstances?
Yes. Yeah, I suppose every case is individual, you know, and as I said there to your caller, you know, that, you know, say if a person isn't married and they have no one, you know, and they're living on their own and they have falls and, you know, I suppose the best place then for them to get the care they need is in a nursing home. But then on the other hand, with your parents, I really believe that they really deserve to be in their own little nest. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you know, they do. Well, I think people, generally speaking, prefer to be at home. You know what I mean? And you know, I suppose we've all seen that situation where, you know, somebody's in a nursing home, or well, maybe we haven't all seen it, where they want to go home. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I this girl I know that works there, and she was telling me that on numerous occasions she has them. They're sitting crying, you know, wanting to go home. And she said some of them are quite capable of being at home. She said a lot of them are. She said obviously some need care and attention because maybe they're you know, the latter stages of Alzheimer's or whatever. That's understandable. But other people don't need to be there. They're just there because they're old and they're inconvenient.
Well, yeah, that is true. But I think I was on to you before, and I told you that I worked in a nursing home. And, yeah, I mean, really, the elderly that was in the nursing home I worked in, you know, there was dementia, and then, you know, there were all different cases, but everyone that was there will say that was compos mentis, you know, that knew what was going on. They were very, very happy because they had that home-to-home environment, you know. As I said to you before, it was a great nursing home. But, you know, as I said, my own mother, she always said she didn't want to go into a nursing home. And
I wouldn't like to. I don't think anybody really wants to be in a nursing home.
No. But I mean, she unfortunately, she got sick, and myself and my brothers, we looked after her at home. And, you know, I said to her, you know, I made a promise to her that she wouldn't go into a nursing home. And thankfully, she didn't.
Yeah, I told Karen, I told my wife, if I ever in a situation where I need to be in a nursing home, just shoot me and put me in a wheelie bin.
Well, you see, I suppose there's great support out there, Niall, for anyone, you know, that can stay at home. You know, there's support, great support. And as I said, we were very lucky in our
But we should be
family
paying people more. People who stay at home to care for somebody, you know, for 24-hour care. And there are people caring for their parents in their homes, and they have hoists, and they have stair lifts, and they have all the... Yeah, and don't get me wrong, the government do give grants towards all of those things. But they should be paying them more because they're saving the state thousands every year.
That's it. But to see, when I was looking after my mother, I just said it was a privilege, you know, and an honour, because she did so much for us, because our dad died when we were young. So she was just the most amazing.
Well, she changed your nappy, Fiona, you know, when you were a baby.
Well, there's no need to go there, Niall, you know now.
I'm just saying. No, so she paid for you till you were 18. She worked hard, I imagine, to pay for everything for you until you were 18, at least 18 years of age. She fed you, she clothed you, she changed her nappy.
She did. And
so we kind of owe it back to them, don't we?
But that's exactly it. I felt that, you know, she deserved, you know, the care and you know, what she wanted, you know.
Yeah.
And as I said, I was honoured to do that for her, because it was my way of thanking her, and you know, I was lucky I could do that for her. But in other circumstances, my uncle then lived with us for a year and a half, and he had dementia. And he was he was hard work, let's put it that way. So he eventually had to go into a nursing home. But he was happy in there, you know. He made his own little family in there. You know, he was with patients like himself, and they were just really happy. They weren't asking to go home or anything, you know. So as I said, it varies. But if you were to ask me, I think that parents, especially, they deserve to be at home if at all possible. But it's
absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And you know, I do understand somebody complained about Malachi's comment last week that we dump people in old folks' home. But some people just do dump people in old folks' homes. Not everybody, but can I point out?
Well, yeah. I mean, there are cases that the families, you know, will just say, well, look,
they're an inconvenience.
You know, when they fly the nest, and they say, right, you know, we have our lives now. I'm getting married, or I have my children, and you know, I've my life, and it's a little bit selfish. Now I'll probably get that, you know, I'll get a lot of callers on, but you know.
No. You won't get a lot, because I think a lot of people agree. By times, and I'm not saying in every case, it is selfish.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it for your own needs and not for theirs. You're doing it because that older person is an inconvenience in your family.
Yep. Well, you see, the thing is, when you're, you know, an adult and all that, and you can see your parents getting that bit older, and you know, say, look, they're not going to live forever, but they've done so much for you when you were small, and. You know, that's probably it anyway.
Okay. Yeah, well, hang on. Let me go to John as well. You can take sort of 1 and 2 there if you want to, Jane. Let me just go to John too, if I can. John, how are you doing?
Hi, Niall. How are you?
Good. John, I mean, do we owe our parents everything, really?
We do, Niall. Of course we do.
Without
a doubt. My mother and father always said to us, as a family, never, ever, ever put us in a home. And Niall, I would never have done it. I have a big family, Niall, thank God. And we never did do it, Niall. And it's the fact of the matter is, Niall, they wiped their arses and we'll wipe theirs till the end of time. And it's going to always be that way. Unfortunately, my father's gone, Niall. And we you know, there was nothing that the hospitals would do for him. And my family done everything. We brought him home, Niall, and that was the way it was. And he died in his own home, in his own bed. And I have to give it out straight, Niall, as well. See the you know, I don't know, the carers, Niall, the carers.
Yeah, the carers. Yeah.
They administer the medication, which is, you know, to make them feel good and make them feel better and make them feel comfortable. Now, I've got to give a big shout out to them. But the fact of the matter is, Niall, I could never have ever put my father into a home, or my mother. It'll never happen, Niall, because I think it's so selfish.
Unless, of course, they need to be there. I mean, and some people do need to be in a home to get the care they need, because you can't provide that sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's people out there, and I do know of people that actually put the mothers and the fathers into care homes because they just didn't have the time for them now. And they don't need to be in a care home now. And you know what the shocking part is now? They put them in there, they sold their home off to pay for the care in the care home.
Yeah, they remortgaged the house,
Well, not remortgaged.
Oh, well, they would put the parents' house up, of course, to pay for it,
Yes, they sold their parents' house to pay for this, and I'm like, you fucking bastards, why just do that? Like, you know, why just take a bit of time out to care for them? They're not going to be here for long.
Well, for some of them, it's like that could be 10 years of their life that they feel they could be enjoying without having to worry about, you know, this old person in their house.
Yeah, but Niall, it's not the old person. It's the motor.
Oh, no, I know that. I know. I'm agreeing with you, John, by the way, but I'm just telling you the attitude of some people.
It's terrible, Niall.
Yeah.
And anybody that feels that they can put their mother and father into a care home and just leave them there and they'll deal with it, they're absolute scumbags, Niall.
Well, somebody's texting in here and says, I disagree with nearly everybody on the air tonight. I put my father in a care home only because we had nowhere else for him to go. My sister lives in England and I live here in Ireland, so I'm the only one. But I have 3 young children and my father, certainly around the house, would be incompatible with the family. So for that reason, we decided to put him into a care home because he would be not only safer there, but wouldn't be interfering in our lives. We do have our own lives as well. Let me go to Maureen. Hi, Maureen.
Hi, Niall.
What do you think of that text? We have our own lives. We can't be just looking at them.
Oh, yeah, that's shocking.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. And his dad will be in the way because he's got children. Okay, so their grandfather is in the way, right? That's, Look, I had
It'll be
my
an interference.
girls.
Yeah, an interference.
Yeah, my girls were young. I had my parents in my home. I'm an only child. I had nobody to call on. But I kept them in my home. And I was going out to work as well. And then at night time, on top of that. But my father had to go to our local nursing home here. He was only there 3 months when he died. But he'd been at home all the time, you see, with me. And my mother was there for a year, but she had to go because I couldn't operate a hoist or that on my own, and I couldn't physically care anymore for her. And, she spent her last weekend in Bantry because she got really sick. And I spent the last weekend with her in Bantry Hospital. And but I have no regrets I looked after my parents. It was my job because, look, they raised me. I got most everything I wanted. But I didn't ask for it, but, I didn't do without.
And how old were they? How old were they when they passed away?
My father was 76 and my mother was 82.
Okay.
So they had a good life. And when it came to that, I couldn't turn around, Niall, and shove them in anywhere when I had room for them in my home. I had 3 young children, but I had room for my parents in my home. Mm-hmm. And my children enjoyed it because they had their grandparents with them as well. And
they weren't an interference?
No, not at all. Mm. Of course not. I took them downtown. I had a car and all that time. I was fairly okay. And I'd drive my father downtown and I'd go down and collect him because he wasn't too good in the walking. And as long as I did that, and I went to where they were living before they came to me. I'd check them out every evening. I'd fill up buckets for them with the coal and I'd have it up for the morning for them and I'd have it all ready so my mother could just get the fire going, especially in winter time. All that was done, like.
Stay there for a second. Alan, everything Maureen is saying, kind of echoes what I was thinking. You have some sort of obligation, but you think it's just a kind of normal part of society. That's your kind of transition. You're not your last step, really, is it? Last stop.
Look, it's a necessary step within society because sometimes if a parent gets to the point where...
You're breaking up a little bit, Alan. Run to another room or upstairs or something, or I don't know.
Jeez, I'm saying that wife be asking questions.
Are you going upstairs with Niall Boylan? Yeah, go ahead, Alan. Sorry.
I think it's a necessary step in society, right? Because a parent can get so bad that you're not professional care, right? But you should do everything you can to keep them at home. But I think the problem comes that we no longer value women we don't value women or mothers, right? They have to work, they have to pay tax. That's all the government wants. We don't value elderly people because they're now a burden, so that's stopping you from working and paying tax. So we need to get back to a society where we actually, look after elderly people.
Well, 50 years ago, elderly people didn't go to nursing homes.
Yeah, because that's when you see society started to change. It's all about making you pay tax, work, pay tax, work, pay tax. That's what all the government want nowadays. It's work and pay tax, which is unfortunate because we're just literally dumping elderly people. I do think to a certain point, nursing homes are needed, right? When someone gets so bad that you can't look after them home because you don't have the equipment at home that they would need. But as long as you can keep them at home, you should keep them at home and look after them. So just they raise you for feck's sake, like.
Do you believe? Have you got an obligation to do it? Do you believe you're obliged to do it?
Yeah, but reverse that question. Is your mother or father obliged to raise you as a child if you're ill?
Of course they are.
Of course they are. So then you have an obligation when the tide turns, look after them as best you can. Mm-hmm. That's what you have to do. Mm-hmm. My own mother was sick in hospital. See, myself, my brother, and my sister, we swapped every day. Where one of us was in every single second day, whether Monday to Sunday. One of us was in. And that's the way we worked it. We didn't say, good luck to you, we'll see you in a week's time, see how you're getting on.
Yeah.
That's what we done. And that's what you have to do. And that person that texted me earlier on going that there are burdens, I've got kids, she needs a slap.
I couldn't agree with you more. Maureen, do you think elderly people in general, and of course we've talked last week about euthanasia and all that kind of thing, and I know Malachy had a fair whack at a fair stab at people, but do you believe that the elderly are becoming some sort of burden in society now?
I think so. Mm. I do think so.
Wrongly, of course.
Was that last caller? What was his name?
Alan.
He just spoke there now. Aaron.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he said, you see, he said, yes, it's work and pay taxes. This is what's happening. So you have both parties out at work. So I suppose they're feeling it. Maybe it's a burden because now they're having to find it. Maybe someone has to stay at home and look after one of the parents, or a carer is coming in, and, so I think they are. So the only solution is, I suppose, these people are deciding, well, we'll put them in a nursing home, But if you can, my point is, my opinion is, if you can, keep them at home as long as you can.
I mean, look at the
Because
Italians.
once they're gone-
Look at the
once they're gone-
Italians. The way the Italians do it. I mean, the Italians don't put people in nursing homes as quick as we certainly do. It's no big deal in Italy to have, grandparents and great-grandparents living in the same home with their children and grandchildren. That's quite common in Italy.
What do you say? The Italians are more family-orientated than we are.
Absolutely.
Well, Ireland was that way. And that's changed over the last 20, 30 years, where it's all become about paying taxes, everyone working, you must do your bit. I've heard this crap one more about pulling on the green jersey. I'm going to swing for someone.
Putting on the green jersey, yeah.
Because it's absolute horseshit that politicians come out with, right? Because I guarantee their parents won't be spending the night in a nursing home.
No.
Make sure they're cared for at home. So Ireland used to be about family. That's what it was always about. And that Ireland itself as a country was one family.
Yeah.
But politicians have seen to destroy that. You're paying taxes or you're not worth anything. That's the way it seems to be nowadays.
Yeah, WD-40 will do wonders for that squeak on that door, by the way, whoever closed the door there behind them. Is that you, Alan?
That wasn't my fight. No, that's not my fight.
Maureen, are you going in and out? Are you going out two doors there, Maureen?
No, I was actually closing the window.
Oh, well, you need to get some WD-40 on that window.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a squeak on it.
Will do, boss.
Real people, real opinions, real talk radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.